alien abduction, is said to be a phenomenon where people all around the world claim to have been abducted by extraterrestrial beings, and made a test subject to their strange experiments. Here are 3 alien abduction stories. On July 23, 1992, in Sydney, Australia, a man named Peter Curry went to bed a little early. He recalls waking up as he felt something landed on the bed. As he got up, he saw what appeared to be 2 strange women kneeling near his bed. He was confused as of who are they, how they got in his room and why they look so strange and barely human. According to his description, one had an appearance of Nordic with an elongated face, blue eyes, and a pointed chin. Another one looked kind of Asian. He said that they were communicating through telepathy and somehow, he was able to understand them. No normal communication occurred, but the Nordic woman seemed to be in charge, and she was giving the Asian-looking woman some sort of instruction. After that, the blonde women climbed on top of Peter, while the Asian-looking women sat at the edge of the bed looking blankly at what was happening. She was like 6 feet tall and very strong. She grabbed Peter's face and pulled him towards her chest. He resisted and resisted, but she was too strong and overpowered him. In his fit he bit her, tearing her flesh off. And this kind of helped as she let him go and he fell on his bed. The women look at each other confused, as this is not how it was supposed to happen. Moments later, he looked up. As quickly as they had arrived, both women had vanished. As strange as the story sounds, Peter had proof to back up his story. He found blonde hair on him of that alien woman. He kept the hair in the plastic bag with a seal. This case got a lot of attention and was widely discussed and came into the knowledge of UFO researcher Bill Chalker. He began an investigation into the case and did the world's first PCR DNA test on the hair sample. The test result showed that the hair was biologically close to human genetics but came from an unusual human race, probably a rare Chinese Mongoloid type. On September 19, 1961. The Hills were driving back to home from a vacation in Niagara Falls. On the highway around New Hampshire, Betty saw a bright light in the sky. She thought it's a shooting star, but the catch was it was moving upward. It caught their attention, so they stopped the car and pulled out binoculars to take a closer look. Betty, looking through binoculars, observed an odd-shaped craft, flashing red, amber and green lights traveling across the sky. She passes the binoculars to Barney. Being a reasonable person, he thought it was a commercial airline traveling across the sky. What else could be flying in the sky? However, he soon changed his mind, because it didn't seem to have turned around, but the craft started descending in his direction rapidly. This observation caused Barney to realize that this object was not a plane. Disturbed by the discovery, they quickly hopped back in their car and started driving on the highway trying to get away from this thing. The Hills said they observed the object as it came even closer. They watched as the silent, illuminated craft moved erratically and bounced back and forth in the night sky. It seemed as if it was aware of their presence and was following them. About 1 mile south of the place called Indian Head, they said, the object came right above them and rapidly descended toward their vehicle. This caused Barney to stop in the middle of the highway. The huge, silent craft emitted bright lights which filled the entire field of view in the windshield. With his pistol in his pocket, he stepped out from his car and moved towards the object. Seeing through his binoculars, Barney claimed to have seen 8 to 11 humanoid figures, who were peering out of the craft's windows, seeming to look at him. Then all but one figure moved to what appeared to be a panel on the rear wall that encircled the front portion of the craft. The one remaining figure continued to look at Barney and communicated a message telling him to stay where you are and keep looking. They reached home at around dawn. The Hills felt strange sensations which they could not explain. Betty insisted to keep the luggage in the backyard and not in the house as they felt contaminated. Their clothes and shoes had a visible tear. Their watches would never work again. Leather strap for the binoculars was torn. Each of them sat and drew a picture of what they had observed the other day. On October 21, 1961, Barney reported to National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena investigators about the incident and that the beings were somehow not human. On August 13, 1975, Sergeant Charles L. Moody was stationed in New Mexico. He was observing a meteor shower at 1:15 a.m. when he saw a glowing metallic disc-shaped object descend to the ground and hover above it at an altitude of about 300 meters. The UFO measured about 50 feet long and 18 to 20 feet wide. It was spinning on its axis, and then it suddenly started moving towards Moody. He quickly got into the car but could not start it. He heard a high-pitched sound. Then he saw a window in the UFO, through which human-like silhouettes were visible. The noise ended, and Moody suddenly felt his body slowly begin to go numb. When he regained his consciousness, the last thing he remembered was how the UFO flew up and disappeared into the sky. Moody turned the ignition key in his car again, and the engine finally started. Without wasting any more time, he quickly drove home. When he returned, he was surprised to see that the clock was already showing 3 o'clock. He could not believe that he was gone for a whole hour and a half. The next day, Moody felt a pain in his back. Within a few days, the lower part of his body was covered with a rash. On the doctor's recommendation, he began to practice self-hypnosis, trying to remember what had happened during that lost period of time. Within a few weeks, Moody was able to get together the pieces of his memories. According to him, after his body stopped going numb, noticed that 2 strange creatures were approaching his car. Their height was close to the 6-foot mark, and the strangers wore black tight-fitting clothing. He tried to fight against them but lost, and became unconscious. He woke up on the floor inside the aircraft and felt a leaden weight in his arms and legs. Standing next to Moody was the main alien. He differed from the kidnappers. He had a small stature, about 5 feet, and the silver-white color of his suit. But, like them, he had a bald head, protruding eyebrows, round eyes, small ears, a small nose, and very thin lips. The stranger's skin was a light gray shade. The leader telepathically asked Moody if he would be quiet. He agreed, and then the man put tanks on his back, after which the paralysis disappeared. Moody was taken to another part of the ship, where there was a disc-shaped device that consisted of a rod surrounded by a dome of glass with 3 holes. One end of it looked like a ball, and the other was crowned with a brand. As he was being led around the ship, the aliens informed Moody that he would forget the incident for 2 weeks. Then the leader again made the sergeant lose consciousness. Whether these stories are true or not, it surely starts a debate of, are aliens real? Is your best friend one of them? Think about it.